Good afternoon again. It is my pleasure to open the second session on Israel and the Kurds, and we will be dealing with these questions. Historical ties between Israel, Jews, and Kurds. Can Israel be a role model for the Kurds? Israel-Kurdistan, the axis of democracy in a hostile neighborhood. Israeli leaders, vocal support and its consequences. The pros and cons of open relations, and the last one, the diaspora's role in cementing the relations. I'm very honored to have here Mr. Musi Raz, why did they put Raz, but never mind, Israeli MK, who is himself very much interested in he is part of the Israeli Kurdish lobby, and we are very grateful that he made all the way here to Israel. Mr. Dvir from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is also dealing with the Kurds and with Iraq. Mr. Joël Rubinfeld, President of the Jewish Coalition for Kurdistan and has all the Kurds in his heart. Bakir Lashkari, whom you know, but I'll add a few words from the Intellectual Diaspora and Kurdistan Israel, Lobby Society, and last but not least, Mirza Dinnayi, Yezidi activist and head of how do you call it? Lubi? Yeah, this is German. So what I'll do is I'll give each of you between 7 to 10 minutes just to present your ideas about Kurdish-Israeli relations, and then we open to the public. Maybe we will start with Mr. Musi Raz, and then one by one, please.
Good afternoon. Sorry to be late. I'm very happy to be here. I was enthusiastic where I was invited to come to here. Actually, my grandparents came from Kurdistan more than 80 years ago. My father's parents came from a small village not far from Mosul, named Rubinfeld, and I have a story about this village that nobody knows. I don't know if this village still exists, but I met a kind of an expert to the Jews in Kurdistan, and he asked me, where is your grandparents from? I told him the name of the village, and I told him, nobody knows about this village, and he told me, nobody knows. Here is my PhD. I interviewed your grandfather, so he knew a lot about the village, and my grandfather used to tell a lot of good things about the relations between the Muslims and the Jews in this village and the other villages in this area. So my father's parents came to Jerusalem in 1931, and something that I think interesting was that unlike most of the Jews who came to Israel, it was for my grandfather the most natural thing to go to live in the Muslim quarter in Jerusalem, not in the Jewish quarter, because he was used to the neighborhoods of Muslims. My mother's parents came from a small town in Turkey. The name is Jazira, maybe few of you know. And actually, there is another member of the Knesset that his parents came from there, Miki Levy, you know? Yes. So we are two from the same town, and they came to Israel. It was by then Palestine in 1934. And they were jailed because they didn't have passports. So my grandmother was in the jail in Bethlehem, and my grandfather was in the jail in Acre, and then they were deported and lived a year in Aleppo and came back. So, and this is the story of the Jewish people coming back to Israel, Palestine was under the British mandate. A lot of people who try to reach sometimes through the sea or with walking with cabs. My grandfather came with a cab from Beirut to Haifa. And in many cases they could not do that and were deported by the Brits later to Cyprus, not people from Kurdistan. But the most of the Jews came in the few first years of the state, from Kurdistan to Israel in the 50s. Many of them live in Jerusalem and other places in Israel. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not very interested in this issue. I think that Jews and the Kurds has a lot to think together. Actually, we are both minorities in a very large area, a very large Arabic area. We are minorities in this area, and like we actually 70 years ago managed to form our state. I wish that you will have the best way to strengthen actually the autonomy that you have, or the state, or whatever you call it, and to have a real united Kurdish state. And I think that the relations go back, we know, to the 60s of cooperation between the two nations. We should focus on that in the future. Another thing that we have in common is the fact that we have a lot of people outside the exile, you and us, that I hope one day will come back to strengthen our states. We have in common the fact that in both our armies, women serve us, and you know, you have equality to the men. And by the way, in the history of the Jewish communities, the first woman rabbi was in Kurdistan, Osnat Barashi, 400 years ago, before any other community, any other Jewish community anywhere had a rabbi. So this is another thing that we share together. And I'm sure that we share together our wish to democracy and peace. And I hope in the coming future, both the nations will see that happening, with good friendship between our nations. And for the beginning, I think it's enough, and I will hear my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosh Bash, everyone. If I will start telling about my grandparents, so I think it will be not relevant so much for this meeting, because they are what we call the Ashkenazi Jews that came from Poland and from Russia. They are also sometimes. So this is for another discussion, maybe. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will maybe just say a few words about what we're dealing with in the ministry, and maybe some points later on we can, in the Q&A session, we can take. Sorry. So we know just a little bit of history about the good relations that were between, even since Israel was established 70 years ago. There was the peripheral policy made by Ben-Gurion that Israel should get in touch and get friendly with non-Arab elements. And among them were the Kurds, were Turkey, Iran, Ethiopia, and so on. So our relations go a long way to the past, and especially with the Kurds in Iraq. And this is the main part of Kurdistan that we, as the foreign ministry, dealing with. So I know that there are also Kurds here from other countries and from other regions, but we are focusing mainly on the Kurds in Iraq, with whom we have historical relations and positive relations in the past. And also their autonomy level is much higher than in the other three countries. The Jewish community came from Kurdistan, we heard, is it's the same situation like we have with other countries. It's a bridge that connects our people, and we in the foreign ministry we try to invest a lot in the people-to-people connection. We know that there are leaders, there are politicians, and they have their own interests, but until that time the people sometimes they have their own will and their own initiatives, and sometimes the people can pave the way to the politicians in the future. And this is something that we are, I hope, maybe doing with Iraq in general, strengthening the people-to-people connection, but this is something that we are trying to do with the Kurds as well. And we see, especially in the last year, an increase in this intensity of the people-to-people connection. And I will just mention some points. We focus a lot on the humanitarian aspect. I saw, for example, the name of Lisa Miara. She was supposed to arrive, so you probably heard about Israeli-British lady who is managing an NGO called the Springs of Hope, and she is active helping Yezidi women and children in Duhok, and we're having a cooperation with her, and we're planning to continue to do that. We hosted, for example, last year a delegation of medical clowns that came to Israel for a week in order to get some training. Israel is very experienced in this whole area of medical clowning, and unfortunately there is a lot of need for these professionals in Kurdistan as well. And we have also plans for next year. Now we are in the end of the year, and we're thinking about next year having other courses and trainings like that. We will be very happy to conduct trainings in third countries. Unfortunately, we as Israeli passport holders, it's even not allowed for us to travel to Iraq. It's still considered an enemy state in Israel. And for Iraqi passport holders, it's very difficult to come to Israel. So it makes the connection very, very difficult. And we try to compensate on that by trying to do activities in third countries or online activities. And I mentioned the Facebook page, and we also opened 3 months ago a website, special website for medical, what we call the telemedicine in Arabic, a website where people, everyone from all over the world can go into this website and ask questions. This website is about diabetes, a disease that unfortunately is very common in the Middle East. And Israeli Arab-speaking doctors who are expert on diabetes, they are answering the people. We call it Sihatuna, our health. And the first page is on diabetes, and we hope there will be other pages as well. So these kind of initiatives is our way to try to reach out and to break this barrier that we have because of the logistic problems of us not being able to go there and them not being, or difficult for them to come to us. I will also like to mention the academic field, and here to thank Ofra for everything that you're doing in the Kurdish Forum in the Tel Aviv University, bringing many people from the academe for discussions about Kurdish affairs. It's very, very important. On the business front, it's possible for Israelis to trade with Kurdistan, and we know there are some connections, but we see the potential much, much higher than what is exploited. So this is something that we are also trying to promote. Culture, we started recently trying to have some activities in the field of culture, mainly the cinema and literature. I think this is areas where we can show, if Kurds cannot arrive to Israel very easily, we can show maybe Israeli films in Kurdistan. Maybe you heard there were some films screened recently. We would like to promote more books being translated to Kurdish, because books is also a way to break this barrier and learn more about each other. And I, from my part, will be happy to also to contribute on the other way, to have Kurdish films being screened in Israel, and literature, and so on and so forth. Last thing on the political level, which is maybe the most interesting, but the most complicated as well. We are aware of the sensitivities in the Kurdish side about having open relations with Israel. We understand it. It's not something new, especially after the referendum last year. And I think if I'm connected for a minute as a closing for the topic of this panel about what Kurdistan can learn from Israel or from the Israeli model, it will be not news or major news that I will say mainly two things. I think that proved, at least in the Israeli history, as being successful. One is keeping the unity, of course, as much as possible, which is, of course, very problematic in the Kurdish case, and strengthening the international lobby as a way to gather more support for the idea of independence. I think I will stop at this point and then I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofra. In 2013, a debate was held at the University of Erbil, the capital city of Iraqi Kurdistan. More than 200 students from all of the university faculties showed up to take part. Two teams, numbering 3 people each, faced off in front of a judge panel. The subject of debate was, should Iraqi Kurdistan have open diplomatic relations with Israel? Let me quote from an article about this debate, published in Ynet, Israel's largest news website. Quote, at the end of the debate, the judge panel decided that the team arguing for relation with Israel was victorious. And afterwards, the audience echoed their decision vehemently, voting in favor for relation with the Jewish state, unquote. This is something. It took place in Erbil, which for now is still part of Iraq, a country which, technically speaking, is still at war with Israel since the 1948 independence war. This is something. To be honest, I'm not sure there is one university in Western European countries where a debate on the subject, should we keep, not open, should we keep diplomatic relations with Israel, would win a majority of votes. Another story which says a lot is about those Israeli flags proudly waved by Kurdish demonstrators at pro-referendum rallies held last year in Brussels, Geneva, Stockholm, Oslo, Köln, Hamburg, and other cities. At those pro-independence rallies across Europe, Israeli flags frequently appeared among the sea of Kurdish flags. I personally experienced it in Brussels. Again, in Western European countries, when Israeli flags are unfurled in the street, it's usually at anti-Israel demonstration just before being burned down. Cherry on the cake, Israeli flags were also enthusiastically waved in Iraqi Kurdistan, in cities as Erbil, Douk, or Acre. This is unusual, to say the least. These two stories reflect the special bond existing between two people, Jews and Kurds. between two nations, Israel and Kurdistan. As Delovan Barvari said, quote, "The Kurds and the Jewish people have many similarities. They have both suffered many centuries of injustice and oppression at the hand of their neighbors, and both have experienced genocide," unquote. Delovan Barvari was part of the group from the Kurdish community of Washington, D.C., which went last week to Pittsburgh to meet with members of the Jewish community to express their condolence and show their support. Yes, it is true. Most of Kurds I met identify themselves strongly with Jews and Israel. They see Israel as a role model, sharing the same Western values, living in the same hostile environment, facing the same challenges, and pursuing the same dreams. The points cited above should be self-sufficient for every Jew, every Israeli, to engage in the struggle for the legitimate rights of the Kurdish people to self-determination. But there are much more reasons to support this cause, of which the leading one is justice. Kurds are indeed the largest group of people in the world without a country, most of them living in exile in their own territory. In 1920, in Sèvres, the international community committed itself to granting a territory for Kurds, following the fall of the Ottoman Empire and its dismemberment that was ongoing. 3 years later, in Lausanne, the international community reneged on its promise. We, therefore, have an historical debt toward the Kurdish people when it comes about the Lausanne Conference betrayal. We have also a moral debt toward the Kurdish people. Indeed, when Saddam Hussein regime committed a genocide against Kurds in the late 80s, gassing 5,000 innocent civilians in Halabja, killing 180,000 Kurds during the Anfal operation, the international community didn't lift a finger. And finally, we have a security debt towards the Kurdish people. How many terrorist attacks in Brussels, Paris, Berlin, London, and other European cities were thwarted by the brave Peshmerga fighting ISIS terrorists in Iraq and Syria, thus preventing them from carrying out attacks on European soil? So let's summarize. We have an historical debt, a moral debt, and a security debt toward the Kurdish people. After a century-long broken promise, I think that it's more than time to pay our debts by setting right injustice of the past. Thank you.
Well, I can be very short. I was 18 years old. I finished my study and I wanted to be a pilot. I went to Baghdad. The army officer said, "Where do you come from?" I said, "Well, I came from Erbil." "Are you a Kurd?" He said, "Yes." "Son of a bitch, get out of here." I said, "Wow." I went home to Erbil and I told my father. Say, "You know what they said to me?" So wait, "I'll bring you to Barzani, Mustafa Barzani." I said, "Pardon?" I said, "Yes." We were with 6 Kurdish people, including Kemal Kirkuchi. We went to Tehran, and we thought that we might be also getting the opportunity to be a pilot in Iran. I said, "Shuma Kurd hasti? Are you a Kurd?" He said, "No." So, but the idea behind this was to go to Israel to be a pilot. So they told me, learn English, go back to Kurdistan, and helping the Peshmerga in Haibati Sultan. I did, but unfortunately was Ashbatal. was finished. So we had to flee. I came to Holland in 1975. I thought, well, now I'm 20 years old. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to learn, to study. That's what I did. I went to the Dutch university first with the Dutch journalist, Beb Ouding. She wrote many books. And we went to university. They told me, how much can you pay? I said, well, 365 guilders. It's almost 150, 170 euros nowadays. I said, well, sorry. It costs you 95,000 guilders per year. So I cannot afford that. So what I did, I thought, aha. I know the way, because I believe in myself, and I will do it. I tried to learn the Dutch language, married with a Dutch, 2 children, and I worked hard, but I concentrated on the education. Learning the language, Kurdish people, is very important, because if you learn one more language, it means that you are one more person. I went to all these universities because I could work, I could afford that, to University of Nairobi, but I was there because I couldn't afford that. Then to the University of Andy in Lausanne, in INSEAD in Paris, and London Business School. And I'm proud to be a Kurd, and I would say I'm a Dutchman, but my blood is Kurdish. Now, why Israel? It's started actually from a story from my father. He said, well, in the 16th and in the 15th, there were lots of Jewish people in Erbil, in Tajil. Maruf was his name. I said, well, he was my friend. But all of them, you know, they were collected by the Iraqi army, and they deported them to Israel. I said, aha. So there is something between the Kurdish people and the Jews, the history. So we have the same background because we are both nations. We are the lonely nations. We are surrounded by the enemies. But I wrote many articles, sometimes also together with Ofra, published in Jerusalem Post. Why is so important that the Kurdish people, and I concentrate on the diaspora, learning the language, try to understand the mentality of European and the American, but don't forget, the Kurds always saying, the only friend we have is the mountains. It's not true. We have Jewish friends. They want to help us. But the Kurdish leaders shouldn't be afraid. They have to be more courageous, and like a leader from Kurdistan Azadi party who dares to come to this, which is absolutely fantastic. And I challenge all these leaders who are now perhaps watching the television and see and bargaining and negotiating with Baghdad. Do they have a plan B? No. Somebody said they don't have a plan A. We always need the Kurdish people to learn from Israel, because we need to have friends who can influence the American. We don't need the power. The Kurdish people needs the influence. If we could reach through Kurdistan, Rojava, to the water, we have sitting here today say, well, Bengio Kurdistan. Unfortunately.
Anyway, you can say Bengio Kurdistan.
Well, thank you very much. I think I have especially about the solidarities between Kurds and Jews, nothing to say in addition to what my friends in the panel said. But I think there are some key points that even in our community we didn't understand it very well until now. So the solidarity of Jews and Israel with the Kurds, not because the Kurds are against Arab or something like that. There is a, just like you said, an identification between those both communities. However, it comes out, but this identification is so strong that even the most of the homepage, for example, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, the most of likers from Iraq, they are from Kurdistan, I should tell you, not only in the Kurds in diaspora. Now, in the issue of open relationship, I want to add, and I am proud to be one of the people who are would like and work very, very open with the friends in Israel. There are some friends here that we visited Kurdistan together. I think I was one of those people at the beginning of the crisis in Syria, that we brought humanitarian aid directly from Tel Aviv airport directly to the Erbil airport. So for myself, I find this very strange if we put our head on the under the ground and all our body is, everybody is seeing it. So this good relationship, the brotherhood between both peoples, is very open. Everybody knows that. Why our politicians afraid from that? If they are afraid because of the neighbor countries, because of Iraq, because of Iran, they are hit as everywhere. Nothing will go worse about that. Maybe there are some, for me as a Yezidi human rights activist, one of the important events, unfortunately last week, that happened in the Knesset. So I put it in usually I see it, so during my lobby working in the last 20 years in Europe for the Yezidi issue, I see every time the half full of the glass, not the half empty. And I saw that we had 38 members of the Knesset who wanted to vote for the genocide of Yezidi, and the rest of them from the governmental party. Maybe I know some circumstances behind that, and I hope that we can do more. And Mr. Raz is here, maybe that we in the next parliament or in the next context should be such recognition. I know that it's not that easy in Israel, but it is morally so important for the Yezidi and for Kurdistan that there is such recognition of all crimes that happen to our people. We will not win anything from that recognition, but this recognition is so important morally for my people, morally for whole of the Kurdistan, that we know the people who are suffering from such genocide are also have the same solidarity with each other. If those people who have no that solidarity with us, maybe nobody else in the world will have that. And I think because many other countries recognize that. Now what we can do on this base of relationship and opening relationship, I think we have many steps on the people level. So in the normal citizen of Kurdistan, even the normal citizen of Iraq, I see the resonance of the relationship and friendship between Iraqi people and Jewish people, Israeli people, is so easy. I have some Iraqi friends, Jews from Israel or from diaspora. When they visit Iraq, they are so welcome in Baghdad. They are so welcome in Basra. In addition to all that problem that the governing people and power in Iraq claim in front of the media. We met together, for example, in many events in Europe between even some of those people who are supporting Islamist versions of politics in Iraq or in Kurdistan even. So we have, for example, 2-3 Islamic parties in Kurdistan. Even those people, they have not sensitivity against Jews and against Israel at all. So now, the right moment, we need the right instrument. I know what Roy told us today on this level of the humanitarian issue is very good start for the humanitarian, but I think we should be more open. And this is message not only for the Israeli side, it should be a message for the Kurds, and also the Israeli politicians, they shouldn't be afraid because they make relationship with the Kurds, they will damage relationship somewhere else with the Arabs. I don't think that such thing will happen. Thank you very much.
Now we would like to open the floor for questions. You can ask in any language, and there will be translator. Okay. What language you speak?
My English is not enough, I know that, but my question is a very short question.
You can ask in English, German,
No, I can, I want, first I want short question, and I want answer. After that I want again short answer giving. Why we cannot finish all the word anti-Semitism? Short question.
The Kurds.
What? No, this very, yes. Why we cannot finish anti-Semitism in all the world? Yeah. And after answer, I wanted to again talk it.
I mean, maybe you should ask another question which has to do with the relationship between Kurds and Israel, because this is our topic. The story of anti-Semitism, you know, has a very long history, and it will take us years and years to answer. So anyone who has to ask about, please, your name and introduce yourself. A short question.
My name is Shoresh. I have got a question about how Israel wants to handle this situation in Middle East. Because we know Middle East is one area now is dynamic area, and then many Western countries has to have a partner, strong partner, to have new partners, because these countries which exist in the Middle East now are failed countries. Cultural, and it doesn't work there. Everything doesn't work there, and then they are failed countries, and Israel has many enemies, and Israel, I think, has to have a new partner in the Middle East, and I think Kurdish people they can have a deep-rooted relation to the Kurdish people to make them the strong partner for the future, and in the Kurdish area of North Iraq, we have got many things, but the system and the people over there lack, and there is a huge lack of knowledge, education, and so on. They don't need just weapons. We speak all the time about weapons, why we don't have got so much weapons of money. We know there are democratic instruments in North Iraq.
Is the question.
Sorry. And then over there, the people doesn't have enough knowledge, and they can't use that. And on the other side, we know that Israel is now threatened by the Iranian regime. I don't know how long Israel wants to stay and see that Iran make use of any instruments against Israel, but the Israeli people and system shows just what happened, and the next future maybe we get many, yes, why they don't want to help the Iranian Kurds, and because Kurdistan, part of Iran, occupied by Iran, is Achilles' heel of the Iranian regime. We know that. Yes, thank you so much.
The question: why don't Israel support the Iranian Kurds?
So this is the interpretation of your interpretation to the question.
He asked it
Ah.
in different
So because he started by saying about the gap between Israel and the neighbors and so on, and I just wanted to say in general that of course it is not our goal to change any of to change any of our neighbors, and I think about the gap, the economic gap, I think definitely this is Israel's interest that the economic gaps between us and our neighbors will be smaller than what they are, and we are trying to do things with the Jordan, with Egypt, with the Palestinians, with the Kurds. You might claim that it's not enough, and you might be right, and things, maybe more things should be done, but we have to remember that sometimes there is a reluctance from the Arab side about intensifying this cooperation with Israel as seen as some kind of tatbi', normalization, which is very negative according to in the Arab concept. So, and about the Kurdish issue, I think this is also, I mean, what I said before is leading me to the Kurdish issue, because it takes two to tango in this case, and understanding the need of the KRG and so on to keep the relations with Israel in a low profile on the one hand, but on the other hand we have to know that this mode of conduct is also limiting the volume of the relations that we can have with them, and there sometimes if you want to develop the relationship, there has to be some kind of openness, even if limited openness, but some kind of openness I think will allow us to do more, and maybe to create some kind of snowball or a momentum that will gather more people to be interested economically and so on. Right now, despite of the good and positive historic connection, we see still, I think in many aspects, still a very big wall of Kurdistan being as part of Iraq, and Iraq is an enemy state in Israel, and we have to find some solution in order to break this wall.
And the Kurds of Iran. He asked about the Kurds of Iran.
I'm less of an expert on that, so
No, he asked why don't we support them?
I can speak again, as I said before, on behalf of my ministry. We are focusing mainly on the Kurds of Iraq.
Please. Yeah. I'll collect questions. Maybe it will be easier, okay? And please introduce yourself and ask the person you want to. Okay? So please. Very short questions, not long stories, yes?
My name is Bakir Ibrahim. I'm president and founder of KIFA International. KIFA, it's mean Kurdistan Israel Friendship Association International. So maybe my questions will be for you, my dear Roy. I don't like to speak in a closed area, so that means, do you have any budget for your foreign policy, especially for Middle East? So if you don't have, then we are speaking in closed area. It's very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll
The
go
short.
one by one, don't worry. In which language you want to? Yeah, we are going to have one.
My name is Pishtian Aziz, but I know English only of Arabic. Arabic. Hey, Kurdi. Hey.
Is also a language. You will translate?
من هيك أوكم نية يعني شارع زيكم لقرآنية بس يكبر سهل لقرآن دري إنا خلقناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا أو إيه ما تعارف مع كردي سالة قال إيه خوش حالين بلام أو بسيارة دكم وكو أمريكا لأني ورقابة زي ما ميلان إما دفاع ما كرد لهمو أوروبا لأمريكا خوين ما دا شهيد ما دا بيش مرقى شهيد بو هزاران من دار من ببي باق ما ينوا
لكردستان ببي كسكاري أمانة وهم شهيد من لسر آزادي لو أوي أوروبا وأمريكا بآزادي بشي كتي لباج رفراندوم أمريكا إيمي بزيهش لنيوريا نيتواني أو تحالفيك لقال إيما كردي لقال كرد بيجي تسر هو دارين إسرائيل بتواني تأثير الجنبي لأمريكا بو أوي قضية كرد بيجي تا UN بس هون إما بيستي من با تسجنيا بو أوي كز بكوشين إما كز ناكوشين كتي دفاع لخوم عندك بس هون
Yes, yeah. Yeah, microphone.
His question was that do not leave us in the midway just like America did during the referendum time. And we do not want any weapons to kill. Just help us and be with us. We have been holding those guns since forever because we are trying to defend ourselves, not to kill. Do not misunderstand that. And he mentioned a Quran verse where it says, I do not really understand Arabic, but it has something yeah, we made you people, so you introduce each other to each other. And now we introduced, and we're nice to meet you all, but please don't be like America. Have some influence on them, and please work on the Kurdish issue.
Who else? We'll go one by one, so that we'll...
بله بكردي من برسكي زو كورتايا علاقاتي زوشون علاقاتي إسرائيل وكردستان زور بوشن لتأثير سياسة دولتي دور إسرائيل علاقاتي خلو كردودك جبوه اکونومی کلتور زانیاری همه ام کرد دائما شوند منن چونکه اسرائیل دبی این دولتن اگر دولت اسرائیل مناطق کردستان جوا علاقات بدور بخه و هیچ کی تایبات پیدا اگر امکانی هست
Let me translate. I will do it. I don't know. So he said, we have enough. So he's saying that the relationship between the Kurds or Kurdistan and Israel are very good, but unfortunately there is a big influence because of the interests and relationship of Israel with the neighbor countries, with the Arab countries. This has bad influence on the relationship between the Kurds and Israel. So my hope that you try to separate our relationship with Israel with that relationship that you have with the other neighbor countries from Iraq.
Okay. We'll take two more questions and then we'll start answering and then we'll have the second round. Maybe the two of you. Okay, the two of you and then...
Hey, my name is Stefan. I'm the president of the German-Israel Association in Hamburg. And I would like to know from your perspective, how high is the Kurdish issue on the agenda in the foreign ministry? And what do we expect if there's a change in the policy or in the government of Israel? Currently, we're seeing an expression of solidarity, especially by the prime minister, towards the Kurdish issue. But what do we expect if this is going to change or if Benjamin Netanyahu is going to leave?
Yeah, hello, my name is Saladin Koban. I'm a German politician from the CDU. My question is, I heard like Lashkari said like the visit in Baghdad from Masud Barzani, I think, the 2 days. Is this a mistake for you? Like it looks like a failure after the referendum for you. And the other question is on the Israeli friends. What is the biggest weakness of the Kurdistan region? Thank you.
Weaknesses? Whoever wants to answer, please feel free.
Yes.
One by one.
I'm very much interested in the last one. It's my opinion. The Kurdish leadership made about 100 years repeating the same mistakes. Yeah? The Kurdish leadership making about 100 years the same mistakes. So repeating the same mistakes. Why? Because the Kurdish leaderships are very emotional. When you negotiate, you never negotiate with your friends. you negotiate with your enemies. So if you negotiate with Baghdad, it's not only enough based on the constitution and contract, but it should be also signed who are forcing, actually pushing the Kurdish people, the leadership, to deal with Baghdad. In this example, is the American. So if you want to sign something with Baghdad, you should ask American, well, you need also to sign it with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't sign it at all. That's what happened in referendum. Because the referendum was like, well, American, some other European countries are supporting the referendum in Kurdistan. Excuse me for the word, this unparliamentary was bullshit. The only country who said, I support the referendum in Kurdistan was Israel. And that's why we need all these people around here, the diaspora, to tell the leadership very honestly, very frankly, you are making the same mistakes. So if you say, Israel, don't leave the Kurds in the lark, like the American, but we should also ask the leadership, please, don't leave the Kurds in the lark, your own people, and giving up Kirkuk to the enemies, getting Iran and fighting with Peshmergas and all these things. We have to tell them that they have to take their own responsibility. Thank you.
Anyone else from the table?
Just some things that I wrote for myself. I will go in order of the questions. One was about the budget for Middle East activities in the Middle East in the ministry. So as a good civil servant, I will always say that the budget is not enough, because it's never enough. And next year will probably be even worse, but the experience shows us that once there are good projects, that we are able to convince whoever needs to be convinced that this is a good project and valuable project, the budget is not the problem. We find a budget for that. So if there are good projects, cooperation projects, I'll be happy to hear about them. I'm not making here any, don't want it to be sound like an open promise that any project will be immediately funded and authorized, but it's worth trying, definitely. About the gentleman that said, don't leave us, don't be like America, and so on, I think that as a state and also as people, we proved that we are in the side with the Kurds, and I think the more specific you will be, the Kurdish side, about your requests and what is important for you, and prioritizing it, what is more important, what is less important, it will be easier to come to the international community, and the US is one of them, and to try to have them in your side, in your support. The question about the relations between Israel and the Arab countries, so you're following the news, probably you know that in the last couple of years, because of the Iranian issue, there is a correlation of interest between Israel and many of the Arab countries, Gulf countries, and so on, that we don't have the formal diplomatic relations with, but we will have to see how these things are unfold. And I mentioned earlier the warm relations we have with Iraq, with Morocco, the people-to-people relations that are sometimes and often go before ahead of the government or the leaders' relations. The question about how high the Kurdish topic on the agenda of Israel, and whether it's, I think you asked, and whether it depends if the Prime Minister will stay or leave. From what I know, and the Member of Parliament Musi can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood, there are not many issues in Israel that are bipartisan. Both left and right can agree on. But the Kurdish one is one issue that both parties, even from the extreme left to the extreme right, are drafting a law proposal and so on together. And this is, I think, a source for optimism if we're looking at that. So I will say it's high. Our support was mentioned in the referendum, and I don't think it necessarily has to be dependent who is the prime minister at the time because of this broad support. And the last question about what are the weaknesses of the KRG, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think the most vivid are the lack of unity and the lobbying issues that are, I think, hampering the efforts of the KRG and the other Kurdish organization to advance the idea of independence.
Yeah. Would you like to add something? But I just wanted to add about, the fact that we are opening up to the Gulf countries, to Arab countries, might be an added incentive for the Kurds also to go open. Because as you see, many countries, Arab countries, are open up to Israel. So this will give you the incentive not to be so afraid of antagonizing the Arab world. Please.
Yes. What I wanted to add is personal experience. Going back to the question of a gentleman, what will happen when the Israeli Prime Minister will leave? First of all, it's a long time support. When a few years ago, when Shimon Peres was president of the State of Israel, he went to see Barack Obama in Washington, D.C. to plead the cause of the Kurdish people. So it's been a long time. And my personal experience last year, 1 year ago, precisely 1 year ago, there was in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament, first time ever conference on Kurdistan organized by the Israeli-Kurdistan caucus chaired by Ksenia Zvletova. And I was very surprised by this. I attended this meeting, and I was very surprised maybe 10 to 15 members of Knesset came to speak from the very left to the very right, okay, from Meretz to Beit HaYehudi. Actually, all the Israeli parties were present at this meeting except the Arab party, but all the other Israeli parties were sitting on the same table. And as far as I know, because I'm following closely the Israeli politics, I see only two subjects where there is a unanimity in Israel, again, except maybe the Arab party. It's a fight against anti-Semitism and support to Kurdish independence. So it's, I think, whoever will be the next prime minister and the one after, the support is there, and it will last forever.
Yes, please.
I'm بس بيوستم بترجمة أجر ترجمة كم بوكان. دلهم بيوستم بترجمة أجر ترجمة كم بوكان. يشان لسر بس أول شد لسر سكاني كاك بكري كقصي كرت دمي بو راس كموا نكسي نك آج بطال. شكوا كارساتك بو بس كرت هات مؤامرة شجورة بودكا كاك بكري وراس كوا نكسي. أوي من ما بس ملير كان باسي بكم. جروبة شزور باش. لكردستان خوان آماده کردو ماوی 6 مانگا بین بجداری ام کنگره بکن دعوت نامیان لو کنگره بو هات بلام کنگره نیتوانی یک کس لوانه ویزه ور بگری ل قنصل خانه المانی او کسانی شارزابون پنج مامۆستای جامعه بون که دکتۆران لە مێژوو هەیە بەرنامەی تۆکمەیان دانابوو ڕێکخراوەکانی مجتەمەعی مەدەنی بوون لە ئافرەت و لە پیاو زائداً قناتەکانی ڕاگەیاندن بوون کە ماوەی 6 مانگە دیکۆمنتارێکی ڤیدیۆیی لەسەر یەهودیەکانی ساڵانی 20ەکان لە کوردستان ئامادە کردبوو لەگەڵ پێشانگایەکیش لە ساڵانی 25 ئەو کوردانە یەهودیانەی کە لە کوردستان بوون لە منتقەی ئاکرێ و ئەوانە پرسیارەکە ئەوەیە ئەوانە پارەی باشیان سەرف کرد نزیکەی $1000 سەرف کرد بەڵام نەتواندرا ئێستا لێرکوانە ئامادە بوون بە بەرنامەی تۆکمە خۆیان ئامادە کردبوو نەیانتوانی یەک ڤیزە بۆ کەسانە وەرگرن بگرە قونسڵخانەی ئەڵمانی زۆر بە ناشرین تەعاملی لەگەڵەوانە کرد حتى قسەی زۆر نەشیاویشی پێیان گوتیا سوکایەتیشی بەو کۆنگرە و بەو ڕێکخراوەی کرد بە بەڵگە شەیکمان و احترازیشیان نووسیا دیسانەکە دووبارە بێ هیچ دەلائیلێک بێ هیچ شتێک ڕەفزیان کردەوە هذا پرسیار ئەوەیە کە من باسی دەکەم پێویستە ئەو جارە ئەوانە بە شێوازێکی تەعامل بکەن چونکە ئەڵمانیا وڵاتێک باش نەبوو لەگەر ئیسرائیل و لەگەر کورد.
Actually, the question, first one was comment for Bakir. The second one is the question. Okay. Yeah, it's only a small comment about the using of the term in Kurdish language. About 1975.
It means that the fighting against was over. So they call it in Kurdish sometimes an ashbatal. It means you can't make a meal.
So you give them. Anyway, just a minute. I will translate the rest. Just a minute. So the second issue, he said a group of the people were academics, people, and some people from the media who were preparing a documentary about the Jews in Kurdistan, especially from Accra. They were invited for a long time to this conference, and they have been refused by visa application in the German consulate, and they have been treated very bad from the visa procedure, and they couldn't attend that. And my question, why these people were not able to come, why the German consulate didn't give them the visas. So from my experience, I will answer this question. Kaka, يعني هكر استا وزارة خارجية بخويش دعوتنامة ببرادرك بنيرة قنصلية صلاحياتي خوي هي رفض كان قبولك وعادة هندك قياساتي خوي أن هي فيزا دنيا نادن يعني برواناكم كجناحي هرچند من organization دنيم بلام برواناكم كجناحي organization. But so actually the visa procedure in Kurdistan, because of my experiences since more than 15 years for the Iraqi people, it's very difficult, and they have their own special measures, and they have to check if they give them or not.
My name is Peyman Agai from East Kurdistan. I would like to...
Which part of Kurdistan?
East Kurdistan. Rojava. I would like to ask my mother tongue. Okay? دوای شەڕی یەکەمی جەهانی وڵاتانی تورکیا و سووریا و لەگەڵ عێراق پێکاتن. دوای شەڕی دووەمی جەهانی وڵاتێکی گەورە و دموکراتیک وەکو ئیسرائیل پێکات. جا پرسیارەکەم ئەوەیە. ئێمە دەبێ چاوەڕێی شەڕێکی زۆر گەورەتر بین تا کوردستانێکی پێک بێت. زۆر سپاس.
So the question is, after the First World War, Iraq and different countries have been established. And the Second World War, the result of it, the country like Israel have been established. Should we, as Kurds, wait until the Third World War happen in order to establish a Kurdistan? We hope no.
I want to collect more questions before we finish this round of questions. Is there any woman around to ask a question? You want? Yes. But we'll come to you. No, I'll come to you. I'll immediately after you.
منیش کوردێکی باشووری کوردستانم و ئەمێ بە زمانی دایک زیاتر پرسیارەکەم کەم زیاتر لە سیاسەتدارە ئیسرائیلیەکان یەهودیەکان. ئێمەی کورد بە ئەکسەریەت بڵێن لە ئەدیانە موسڵمانین و زائیدەن هەموو ئەدیانەکانی تر. زۆر جار باژێکی قورسی گەورەمان داوە لەلایەن ناحەزەکان و لەلایەن دوژمنانی هەر چوار پارچەی کوردستانەوە و ئەو باجەش لە هەر چوار پارچەی کوردستان یاومانە بەوەی کە ئێمە دایمە تاوانبارمانەکەن یان هەبووە یان نەبووە لەسەر ساحەی سیاسی ئێمە دۆستی ئیسرائیلین ئێمە پاشکۆی ئیسرائیلین زۆر جار بەمانە تاوانبار کراوین ئەگەر ئەوان بە تاوان ێزان بە ئێمە نا ئێمە ئازادین لەگەڵ چیا پەیوەندی ئەەکەین وەکو جەنابی سۆرەک زۆر جار ئەو ئینە ئەفەرمێ بۆ زۆر جار بۆ دۆسایەتی بۆ ئێمە حرام بێ بەڵام بۆ خۆیان شتێکی حەڵال بێ. بەڵام من لێرە پرسیارەکەی من بۆ سیاسەتدارە ئیسرائیلەکان ئایا ئەو دۆستایەتی ئەوان ئەو دعم لوجستيكي ومعنوي سياسي كإسرائيل برامبر بكرد أيكا تنها أكثريتي شفوينية شكاتك أوان بشويشي عملي هاتون لكاتك وكو 16 أكتوبر كرديان بجيشت زور جا سياسة دار وقائدة كاني إسرائيل يا سركدا كان رئيس ولاتا كان لسر كرد بشويكا يعني بانگێشێکی واکا کورد هەمووی چاڕوانی ئەوەیە کە گەورەترین شتی بۆ بکات بەڵام سێرەکەی تەنها شتێکی ئیعلامی و ڕاگەیاندنە پاش ماوەی شتێکا بێتە سەر شێوەیەکی عەمەلی نەگەر پشتێکە هەموو دراکانی لێداخن زۆر جار ئەممان بینیوە ئایا ئێمەی کورد ئەوەندەی باشمان داوە لەسەر دۆستایەتی کورد و ئیسرائیل ئەوەندە سوودمەند بووین لەو ئینە ئایا ئێوە چیتان پێ بۆ داهاتوو کە بتوانن لە ئێستا بەدواوە ئەو دۆستایەتی و برایەتی بینی کورد و ئیسرائیل بپارێزن و بتوانن دەعمی لۆجستیکی و معنەوی و سیاسی بکەن نەک تەنها بەد بەدەم چکە بەدەم هەموو کەسێک دەتوانێت هەموو کەسێک دەتوانێت پروپاگەندەیەکی سیاسی لە پێناوی هەڵبژاردنێکی خۆیان بۆی کە کوردە یەهودیەکانی ناو ئیسرائیل دەنگی بەنێ بێت گەورەترین بانگێش بکە بەڵام ئایا پرسیارەکەی من ئەوەیە ئایا ئەو سیاسەتدارە ئیسرائیلن چیان پێسپێنێ کە بتوانن بە شێوەی دەعمی عملی نەک مندلیش و پروپاگەندا.
So the question is because we could have paid many bills for our relationship and friendship with Israel. Is there anything from your side, from the Israeli friends, that some practical point that we know not only an oral and sympathy? Do you have anything in all context to offer to the Kurds?
So I will ask my question on Kurdish because I want to good. تكار وانتخابات جدية وعملية هي جبوني مكتبك يعني تمثيليك كردا لإسرائيل فب يعني جالي حكومتها إسرائيل لا جالي حكومتها كردية استأخذها شيء لهولي يعني يجي تمثيليك نانا الإسرائيل بخوا يعني القدس يورزاليم.
And maybe I give the last question.
It's very...
There's another woman, please. Oh, thank God. They started to talk.
They are talking all the time.
I am Dr. Leah Ganor, Director of Mashmaut Center from Israel. I would like to ask, because I come from the research field, educational field, and Holocaust field, I would like to ask, what do the students, the young students, learn in schools about Israel in the places that there are Kurdish minorities? Because the minorities are in different countries, Arabic countries, hostile countries. So what do they learn about Israel? Which image about Israel? And what is the attitude of the young generation toward Israel?
I'm going to give him because you have already asked the question, so I'll give the opportunity to someone who didn't ask. Sorry. Anyone else? I'm collecting the last questions. Anyone who feels very bad about not asking? Okay, after him and you, and very short question and very short answers because we are short in time.
نavim Cömert de Rojavame مدخواست كليا كردو إسرائيل أصلك بلندة يعني أنا مجاملها بدود كن براتيكي دقرك أو تكلي خرد به بلكي الكردستان إيرو نافن تشينبن إجبار كرد مخابن ناف جيران خود كردستان ناقر كرنا بريوان مسلمان فيتشتي نرازينه بس دسبيكا كار أو نافني هبش شيء ببن لأوروبا بجي كرد ليبن بلكي أو نافن دانا ببن فير كرد وإسرائيل كار بيتر دها كار يوم تك براتيكي ده بيتر لفظم أذي يعني نت إطار مجاملات هذا بإسرائيل بيجي أم شو حزكين بأم أم بيشتاوا دقرن جرك براتيكي ده سراسة علمي سراسة عبوري حج.
I would like to have, we are interested to have the relationship between the Kurds and Israel in a higher profile and higher level, and if it is not possible to implement it inside our countries, maybe to have such relationship within the Kurds in diaspora. This is the main question.
Please, you wanted to ask?
Auf Deutsch.
And we close the session with your answers.
Meine Frage ist, inwieweit denn die israelisch-kurdischen Bemühungen auch von Europa und den Vereinigten Staaten unterstützt werden, weil da hat man das Gefühl, also vor allen Dingen bei den Vereinigten Staaten, dass dann letztendlich die Kurden vielleicht fallen gelassen werden, wenn es strategisch ja, für die Interessen, wenn die Interessenslage anders ist.
Wie weit die Kurden sind von Europa und Amerika unterstützt?
Nein, wie weit sie zusammenarbeiten mit Europa, wie gut die Arbeit ist mit Europa und den USA.
The question is how good the relationship and the working together between the Israelis and Europe and America in the Kurdish issue. How strong is that for collaboration between both countries?
And the last but not least, please.
راح احكي بالعربيه لانه في عنا ضيوف عربيه بتمنى انك تترجميها. الكرد الى متى راح يبقوا على هذا الحال ما بين القوميه وما بين الديانه؟ عم نعاني كثير باوروبا. بقرن الحادي والعشرون مفروض انه ما بقى شيء اسمه ابيض او اسود. بتمنى انه الكرد كمان يوضحوا مصيرهم اتجاه القضيه. هل هم اكراد ام هم متدينين؟
Okay, he wants to know if the Kurds are religious or they are nationalists. If you have an answer, please. So, one by one, anyone who wants to give very short answers, you are welcome.
My short answer actually to the question about the education in Kurdistan, unfortunately, nothing. And we try to raise more awareness about that issue, but unfortunately, because all the subject of Iraqi education system, Kurdish education system is only in Kurdish language, but Iraqi system.
May I add one point? I think we tried very often when I talk to people, you know, to try to put just the name of Israel in the textbooks, and it didn't appear because they are so afraid to put even the name of Israel. And I don't know if this doesn't change, what do we expect more to change?
But let to be honest, even in the most of the Kurdish history is not written in our books in Kurdistan. So even the small minorities in Kurdistan are ignored in the education system. Only to be honest for that.
So what will be in the future for the young generation if he is not educated for this?
They will.
What they will think about Israel?
You know, I am a little bit pessimistic. They will land if we will not educate them better in that issue. They will land in the hand of Muslim Brotherhood. Sorry for
in the
that.
internet
We
too.
will lose the friendship.
I can add something on that because I have some information about the education in Kurdistan, which is absolutely necessary, that there are some connection with Israel to translate something from Hebrew to the Kurdish and to make some books in Kurdistan. So they are working on that, but you know it's very sensitive. But they are working on that. And so it's not an easy task, but I think if you do it in Kurdistan in a good manner way, there are relationships also from Kurdistan and also from Israel. They are working on that, which is very important. I totally agree with you.
About the question concerning backing up the words with deeds, with actions, I think I mentioned some of the activities that we have on the humanitarian, on the academic, on the culture, on the business field. There is also issues on the security and political level, but generally, of course, or naturally, I cannot elaborate on that, but there is a connection in all layers, I will say. With regards to whether there is an interest in Israel to open some kind of Kurdish office representation in Israel, I think this question should be first of all directed to the Kurdish side, whether they are keen on giving some visibility to the relation with Israel by having some kind of a representation in Israel. Israel, from its side, has always been more than happy to establish relation also on the formal level with all the people and with all the countries in the region. This is something that is very much in our Declaration of Independence. It's even written. It's in the very core of the country. So I believe that there will be no objection from the Israeli side, but again, the question should be directed to the Kurdish side. And the last one, how big is the Kurdish component on the Israeli-European, Israeli-US relations? Joël mentioned President Peres raising the issue with Obama. And also I know for sure that sometimes lobbying Jewish organization in the US, and you might elaborate more on Europe, I guess, are raising this issue in the Congress. But we have to, sometimes the image, I think, in the Middle East that Israel influence in the US is enormous, and the US is just a puppet on the hand of Israel. Well, this is not the case, unfortunately, and they have their own interests and they act according to their interests. So just to sum up, the issue is raised, but as I said, the more united, the more concrete the requests will be, I think the higher the chances that we will see a more effective lobby.
I just want to add, because the declaration of Netanyahu gave a lot of expectations from the Kurds. They thought that if Hashd Shabi went to Kirkuk, then Israel will immediately send airplanes to do something. Well, it's too much to expect from Israel. I mean, it is doing behind the scenes many things, but it cannot come open and just bombard Kirkuk. There is a limit to what Israel can do. Please.
To come back about education, I'm less, let's say that I'm more optimistic than this. Of course, it's still part of Iraq, and they cannot manage as they want the teaching books and all this. Despite that, like I said earlier, it's not a whole story. 2013, it was a debate at Erbil University, which is the main university in Iraqi Kurdistan. And it was a debate, do we have to open diplomatic relations or not with Israel? And the vast majority of the leader of tomorrow, people of 18, 19, 20 years old, are saying yes, definitely. You will not have the same result in any, I think, Western European university. So I'm much more optimistic than this. You know, there is two kinds of education. Education when you go to school in the teaching books, and education of life. I think that any oppressed people in the region, they identify themselves to Israel. Israel is a success story where they failed till now. Okay, that speaks for Kurds in Iraq. That speaks for Kurds in Iran. But I think also when we speak about Iran, among Iranian people who are oppressed by the Mullah regime, by the Ayatollah regime, I read some testimony, and it's public. Anyone can access to this, of Iranian people in Tehran, in Qum, in I don't know which cities. They love Israel because they are oppressed by the regime, and they see that Israel is the only beacon of freedom in the region. It means that it is possible to be a democracy, to have gender equality, to have all kinds of progressive values in this region. Okay? So I'm much more optimistic than this. You don't have to put this in teaching book and history books. They don't speak about Israel, but believe me, they know where Israel is located. They don't have Israel on the map in the teaching book, but they know where Israel is. And regarding, sir, that you are a bit upset about Israel, I don't understand Kurdish, but you are saying this blah blah, okay? That they are doing blah blah. No, but just one thing, that they are, you know, there is things that can be said and things which have to be done behind the scenes, okay? Despite the fact that Israel is heavily, the Israeli government is heavily working to lobby the Kurdish cause in DC, it shouldn't be public, but it went out in some media. Okay, that Bibi went to DC and to try to lobby. And again, it's not about Netanyahu. It's about there is a consensus in Israel. So, but again, and as you said, Ofra before, I think that maybe there are too much expectation. When I'm interviewed by Kurdish media, Rudo or Kurdistan 24, before the referendum or when there was some attack, they asked me. Actually, I'm not Israeli. Okay, but they asked me, but why Israel is not sending planes to bomb Hashd al-Shabi and things like that? It's not so easy. Israel, I think, is doing the maximum they can do. I would like to see Israeli planes going to bomb Hashd al-Shabi. if I was Minister of Defense, actually there is some vacation, maybe if they want to hire me, but yes, there is some, okay, I'm open to discuss. But we need to be realistic. We need to be realistic. Okay, so, but this Israel, Kurds has no friend except the mountains. You have Jews, and you have also Israel. And I see, you know, I'm very sensitive to people all around the world who are vocal for the Kurdish cause, non-Kurdish people, because it was much more. Because when you are Kurd advocating the Kurdish cause, when you have a head of state or minister of defense, he said, in himself, he said, okay, it's normal, he's Kurd, and he's fighting for his own people. But when you have a non-Kurd advocating the Kurdish cause, it was much more. So I'm very sensitive to this. And what I see, it's in US, in France, in, name it, different countries in the Western world, 90 or 95% of those people who are fighting for the Kurdish cause, and probably the most famous of them is Bernard-Henri Lévy, 90-95%, they are all Jewish. So we know what you are experiencing. We experience this ourselves, and we are very, very motivated and dedicated to help you as we can and to bring you to the place that the Jewish state is today, being an independent and democratic country in the Middle East.
Yeah, just talking about opening the consulate of Israel in Kurdistan. I remember one day Barzani said, if Baghdad will open the embassy, we will also open the consulate in Erbil. Nevertheless, we have already with the diaspora, the Israel consulate in Europe and perhaps also in other countries. So I think the more you come, the more you join these type of discussions, your contribution will be very much appreciated, like all these people are doing in Germany, in other countries, and now with Belgium and the Netherlands, and even we have contact with United States. I think that's the best way. So try to do what you can do for your country and not your country will do for you. I think that's very important.